I thought he was just walking me back to my room. His jacket was still warm on my shoulders. But when I opened the door, two other people were already inside, sitting like they'd been waiting. They didn't look surprised. Before we start, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and stay close. And if you're new here, I'm glad you made it. Let's begin. The hallway lights were soft and golden, stretching our shadows across the patterned carpet. I held my shoes in my hand, the heels tapping lightly against my side as we walked. His jacket rested over my shoulders, holding the last bit of his warmth. He'd offered it with an easy smile, saying I deserved a little kindness after getting through the rooftop mean greet the hotel had hosted. I didn't argue. Now the corridor felt almost silent, except for faint music behind closed doors and the quiet creak under our steps. My dress brushed against my legs as I walked like it wasn't ready for the night to end. "You sure you don't want a late-night snack?" he asked, tilting his head toward the room numbers ahead. I smiled. "I'm not the one doing the walking," he said with a soft laugh. "Then I guess this counts as a polite return." When we reached my door, I shifted my shoes to one hand and pulled my key card from my small bag. The lock flashed green with a soft click. I opened the door without thinking and froze. Two familiar faces were already inside. One sat calmly in the armchair, legs crossed, hands relaxed. The other leaned against the dresser, expression warm but hard to read. They looked up as if they'd been expecting someone, but not surprised it was me. The one by the dresser spoke first. "You left the door unlocked." His voice was calm and steady, so we figured it was okay to wait. I didn't move. My heart thumped once hard like it needed a moment to catch up. Then I let out a small breath of a laugh. Not nervous exactly, just surprised. I glanced back at the man behind me. He didn't say anything. He simply stepped beside me and rested a light hand on my shoulder. The door closed softly behind him. The man in the armchair stood smooth and composed. He reached out a hand toward me like he was welcoming me into a conversation I'd stepped into halfway. I stayed still. His hand touched my shoulder gently just for a moment, like he wanted to be sure I felt steady. Then he stepped back. The man with his hand still extended, waited, calm and patient. I took it because I chose to, even though I wasn't sure what it meant yet. His grip was steady, grounding. The second man, the one who had spoken earlier, walked forward at an easy pace. His eyes met mine briefly before shifting toward the hallway behind me as if making sure everything was okay. No one said anything else, but the quiet changed. The room felt different, like something had shifted the moment I stepped inside. The jacket around my shoulders slipped a little. The man beside me lifted his hand to take it back, pausing with a question in his eyes. I nodded and he slid it off gently. The strap of my bag had twisted under it. I adjusted it with one hand, watching his calm expression as he stepped away. The man who had held my hand raised it slightly again, almost like a soft greeting, then let go. My hands dropped to my sides. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It felt focused, intentional. Their attention moved in small, steady ways, not staring, not hovering, just aware that I hadn't moved yet. The man who had walked me here leaned a little closer, just enough for me to hear him. Out of politeness, I turned toward him. He was watching me gently, not pushing, not leading, simply waiting. His hand lifted halfway, then lowered again like he didn't want to rush anything. I stayed in place. The man near the dresser stepped aside, slowly circling toward the window as if giving me more space. His movements were calm, unhurried. No one rushed. Nothing felt planned, just natural, like everyone was paying attention to the moment. I stepped back half an inch and felt the wall behind me. Not cold, not sharp, just there. A hand found mine again. The same one as before. Another person walked past my other side, not touching, just close enough for me to sense gentle movement. My voice came out quiet, softer than I expected. This wasn't what I thought would happen. The man who walked me back let out a small breath, almost a smile. A thoughtful one. That's fair. I stayed where I was. One of them remained close, quiet beside me. Another shifted farther away, giving me space. The third watched from across the room, not pressing in, not pulling back. No one spoke. No one came closer. I started to notice the air calm, steady, like the room itself was giving me time. The jacket he'd loaned me lay folded over the nearest chair now. I looked at it, but didn't reach for it. My arms were bare, but I didn't feel cold. The quiet one looked at me again, as if wondering gently if I wanted to sit. I didn't answer, but I didn't leave. They weren't crowding me, just nearby, present. The space between us stayed open on purpose. The man who walked me to the door stepped a little closer. His voice dropped soft and warm. "You okay?" I nodded. He didn't ask anything else. He just stayed close, steady. The room was bright enough to see clearly, but softened at the edges. I noticed the rug didn't quite reach the corners. The bed was turned down neatly like the staff had prepared it earlier. Still, no one touched me. The quiet stretched a little longer, not tense, just full. I took a small step toward the window, then stopped. A mirror hung on the far wall. I didn't look at it. The man by the dresser moved aside to clear the path to the center of the room. His gesture wasn't pointed, just thoughtful. He kept his hands loose at his sides, his gaze steady, but gentle. Another man sat down in the corner chair, the cushion dipping quietly beneath him. He watched me, but without demanding anything. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The quiet one went to the side table and lowered the lamp light, making the room softer, calmer. Then he returned to the wall where he'd been. The floor felt steady under my feet. No one guided me, but somehow I found myself near the side of the bed. Not sitting, just standing there. I placed one hand lightly on the bed frame. Not for balance, just to touch something solid. Someone moved behind me briefly. I heard the gentle rustle of fabric close enough to sense, not close enough to touch. My shoulders dropped as I relaxed. The silence didn't break. It deepened. I didn't know who would speak next. Maybe no one. But the room no longer felt unfamiliar. I didn't feel watched. I felt understood. I stayed where I was. The quiet didn't push in on me. It felt patient, respectful, like it knew I was still deciding. One person sat in the corner, calm and focused. Another stood by the dresser, easy and relaxed. The third leaned quietly against the wall, arms loose, expression unreadable. I didn't feel pulled in any direction, just aware of the space, the air, the steady sound of my own breath. Something about the way they stood told me they weren't waiting for instructions, only for the right moment. The man who walked me back shifted his weight slightly. Not a step forward, just the hint of one. The air felt warmer now. Or maybe I was just noticing it. I touched the edge of the bed frame again, grounding myself. The one who dimmed the lamp walked toward the chair in the corner and sat down slowly, like whatever happened next would move gently. I turned slightly toward the center of the room. The soft light brushed the wall behind me, shaping my shadow. They didn't move. They didn't speak, but I felt their attention in a calm, steady way. The man by the dresser tilted his head just enough to meet my eyes. No smile, no questions, just presence. I let my hand fall from the bed frame and stepped back. Not far, just enough to shift the moment. The curtain near the window moved as someone adjusted it, making the light even softer. I looked down, then forward again. Nothing rushed. Nothing took a place I didn't give. The floor felt steady beneath me. I could have walked out, spoken up, or broken the quiet, but I didn't want to. Not yet. The person near the window stayed still, but his eyes followed the movement of the light along the wall. He wasn't looking at me. He just seemed aware that I hadn't moved again. I turned toward the bed. The sheet was folded neatly. I touched the corner lightly with one fingertip, feeling how cool and smooth it was. Then I sat down slowly and purposefully, like sitting was its own answer. No one followed. Nothing in the room changed. I simply let the moment hold me. I folded my hands in my lap, elbows at my sides, not to guard myself, but to breathe. I lifted my gaze. 3 of them still watching gently, still waiting, but not expecting anything I didn't freely offer. My voice was quiet, but clear. I think I'm ready. No one moved, but the moment settled, not as a decision, not as an invitation, just as truth. Some doors aren't about being locked. They're opened when the time feels right. And sometimes stepping through leads to something you didn't plan but still understand. Be honest. If you were in that room, How would you have reacted? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading. And if you haven't yet, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for staying with me.